I made recently, I talked about some good practices to get into when you start motorcycle riding that will prepare you or help train you for making emergency maneuvers on a motorcycle. So I talked about 3 main ones in that video. I think I did emergency stopping, swerving. There was one other one, but I can't quite remember exactly what it was. But I want to demonstrate emergency braking a little bit in this video today, and how I go about practicing it in a safe manner, but also doing it so you push yourself to the limit, and that way you can train yourself for those situations that you will need the technique for. So obviously you don't want to be practicing any sort of skill techniques or any sort of like drills in the middle of town like this, especially in a more populated area. Wow, that was pretty bad. The guy just went right through that red light. I mean, I know he was turning right on red, not a huge deal, but you know. But you shouldn't practice this kind of stuff in a busy environment like this, where there's lots of people, lots of traffic, things like that. Just be smart about it. Do it in a secluded area. I usually will do it only when I can see. Wow, you see that U-turn? He landed perfectly in the spot too. Look at that. I usually only do these things when I am, like I said, either in a parking lot or on a street I know that's not busy. If I can clearly identify that there are no, you know, imminent hazards, whatever. So just be smart about it. Same thing goes if you're like doing wheelies or, you know, any sort of reckless driving, quote unquote. So something you should understand when you're looking into doing this sort of emergency braking, starting to train yourself and get more comfortable doing it, you need to understand that motorcycles can stop a lot faster than cars can. So if you've driven a car for a while, you know, if you're in your mid-20s or, you know, you've been driving cars for like a decade, you know, if you started at 14, 16, 18, whatever. If you've been driving cars for a long time, it may be hard for you to interpret that at the beginning when you start to do this. But you just need to clearly understand and put it in your mind that motorcycles can stop faster than cars. And you'll start to realize that when you actually start to apply a lot of pressure on the brakes on a motorcycle when you first start riding. And what I mean by that, when I mean a lot of pressure, when I mean like actual pressure on the brakes, I'm talking about not just using engine braking and then adding just a little bit of brake. That's what might surprise you when you first start doing these training maneuvers and start to actually try and brake quickly. Be surprised by the power that these brakes can put out and how quickly you can stop. That being said, you do have to obviously be careful for putting too much power, and you know, we know how that goes down that road, you know, low side, high side, whatever it may be. So I'm going to go down this side road here. This is a road that's fairly, hopefully this car sees me braking behind him. I'm always checking my rear views when I make this left turn. That was a bad turn. Yeah, I'm going to go down this side road. It's not really that busy, and it's also got a long straightaway. I can get going pretty fast, do things like that. And additionally, it's not the best surface. So it's kind of a good place to train because you're not ever going to be on a perfect surface. I'm going to start at about, we'll go like 30 miles an hour here. And then I'm just going to do an emergency brake. Like I said, I'll pick out a spot. So I hope you can hear the bike in the audio. But there was obviously a little bit of screeching there. So that wasn't a perfect application of the brakes on my end. But I'm gonna let these cars pass, act like I'm looking at something on the bike. I'm a master at work deception. Act like I'm checking some things out so people, no, I'm just playing. It's not like people actually care. People do give you funny looks if you just sit on the side of the road and don't do anything, you know, like, but if you just wave at people, they'll wave back. Anyways, so that was front and rear brake, and I had a bit of sliding. Now that's a little bit due to this surface not being the best. It's not as grippy as normal roads are. If I were to do it on, you know, like the you know, concrete. I don't even know what this is. This is like a rock mixture of some sort. But anyways, I was comfortable with that stop. I was not scared at any point, even when I started sliding. That was front and rear brake, so I couldn't tell. I think it was probably more so my rear tire that was sliding, but the front tire probably did a little bit too. When the front tire starts to slide and skid, that's when it gets a bit dangerous, because that is when you're going to lose traction in that front tire, and that'll lay the bike down. But you have to get comfortable with doing both of them. I would start with the rear tire, get comfortable with that skidding first, just use the rear brake. I'll do an example of both the rear brake, just the rear brake and just the front brake. And then I'll do probably maybe one more with the both brakes. And I hope it kind of can turn out in the video. This is going to be obvious, but you know, you have to use progressive brake pressure, and I'm not a master at it, but I am getting better at it. And if you understand it and then you practice, you will start to realize how important it is, and realize how to employ it when you're practicing these techniques. So we'll do just a rear brake on this one. You'll probably see my bike fishtail a little bit, because that's what happens when you're on the rear brake. Okay, here we go. Okay, you can see my skid mark back there. And now I'm not doing any downshifting on these. I guess I did on that first one. I'm not doing a ton of downshifting on these, but you know, I'm just pulling clutch in, because this is like an emergency scenario where I'm not going to be using, you know, like focusing on downshifting. There's my, I think that's my skid mark. Yeah, it looks like it. I'm going to check my rear tire out, make sure I'm not causing any severe damage real quick. And again, you have to understand when you're doing this that you are going to be putting a little bit of wear. You're going to be putting a lot of extra wear on your bike than you're normally going to. But for me, in my mindset in riding a motorcycle, I consider it to be worth it, because I need to be comfortable with these things. It's worth your health and well-being on a motorcycle. Tire looks all right. A little bit of rocks on there. Not a big deal. So I'll do just the front brake on this one. I'm going to be extra careful with it though, because just the front brake, like I said, is a bit dangerous. The front brake is the one that gets people in most trouble, from what I can tell in crash reviews and stuff. I'm only going to go about 20 or so on this one. So we're going to apply the front brake. Look at that. That was very well executed. Squeeze, 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 squeeze. Grasp. Progressively slow, starting slow and progressively, exponentially increasing the pressure. So I started a 1. I do a 1 for about a quarter second, and then I do pressure 2, increase my pressure, increase my pressure. It's an exponential thing. It's like square rooting numbers. They progressively increase by more. And you do that in splits of seconds when you're doing progressive brake pressure on your front brake. I might do one more. I like that I didn't have any skid, because that you'll see in the video me just slowly moving forward, and then that lock at the end where I feel that perfect amount of pressure, and then I can squeeze fully and lock that front brake and come to a complete stop, and it'll lurch me forward, and then I'll come back. DDFM explained that perfectly, but I may not just as well. But you'll see it, and you can kind of hopefully understand it a little bit better. Oops, started in second gear there. We'll do another one of those. Squeeze, 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 squeeze. Perfect. It's easy to say when I'm going just this small, these like 20 miles an hour. It's a lot harder when you're going faster. Obviously, you're going to be probably using both brakes when you do it as well, so keep that in mind. But do practice with just each brake, okay? Now, when I did that rear tire one, I didn't actually start skidding. Neither of these did I start skidding. When you get to a point where you're doing this and pushing yourself to even further limits, you probably will eventually skid. You'll get a skid, which is where you'll, instead of just that consistent that you get with the tire screech, it's going to be, you're going to do that, and then it's going to start with a screech, and then it's going to be like that, where your tire is actually bouncing on the ground and skidding, making skid marks instead of one consistent stretch mark, whatever you want to call it. I don't know what the terminology is. So you will start to skid. Keep it under control. It will scare you at first, but you just have to control it. Okay, we'll try and do it again. I'll do a front and rear brake here. We'll get up to about 30. I'm gonna get past this guy at his house. I don't want to do this kind of thing in front of a guy at his house. I'll do it on this side road. A little better, I think a little bit better road surface here actually. So yeah, we'll get up to about 30. And then we're gonna front and rear brake. Not bad. So that, I started skidding, I think on my, I didn't skid, I started sliding on my rear tire. Left a little bit of a mark, but that was a good stop, okay? Pretty good stop. I could have stopped quicker, but again, I'm trying to be a little bit conservative with this in doing this, because that would be kind of embarrassing if I laid the bike over in a video where I'm demonstrating how to come to quicker stops or how to practice doing it. But anyways, that's about what I do. And then obviously as you're doing this, you need to progressively get more advanced. Try and stop quicker, but don't do it right out the gate. You know, be progressive with it. Stop as quick as you feel comfortable doing to start, and then begin to employ more pressure. You know, get more comfortable with applying more pressure, do it quicker, and then maybe if you want, you know, eventually start to add in like unforeseen circumstances. Have somebody of yours like tell you when to stop, you know, something that you can't control, because most of the time when you have to come to an emergency stop, you're not going to be able to control those circumstances. So I hope you guys found this informational. Let me know in the comments what you think, if you guys do the similar things. But yeah, hope this helps. Peace out, everybody. Remember, we were jacking cars.